Millionaire's hidden tragedy. A mysterious knock that led to an unbelievable miracle. Lucas Wright, once a renowned millionaire pianist, sat alone in his dimly lit apartment. The soft hum of the city beyond his window did nothing to stir him. His world, once filled with applause and the thrill of sold-out performances, had dissolved into a silent void. In the corner, his grand piano stood untouched, its glossy surface dulled by a layer of dust, a solemn reminder of the life he had lost. 2 years ago, Lucas's life changed forever in a single moment. A devastating car accident left him blind, shattering not only his vision but also his identity. The doctor's words echoed endlessly in his mind. "The damage to your visual cortex is severe. Recovery is unlikely." These words, heavier than any burden, left Lucas feeling as though his world had been irreparably darkened. His days became monotonous, defined by isolation and regret. Lucas avoided friends, ignored phone calls, and buried himself in the solitude of his once vibrant home. The man who once captivated audiences now struggled to find meaning in a life he could no longer see. But just as the weight of despair threatened to crush him completely, a knock at the door interrupted his downward spiral. A woman's voice called out, soft yet firm, "Mr. Wright, my name is Clara. I'm here to help." This unexpected visitor brought more than assistance. She brought the possibility of hope. Clara's presence would challenge Lucas to face the unimaginable, pushing him to reclaim the life he thought was lost forever. What began as resistance to her guidance soon transformed into something neither of them could have anticipated. What would you do if the light you depended on was taken from you? Stay with us to uncover Lucas's extraordinary journey of resilience, love, and rediscovery. If this story catches your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, Gift Life 86, for more inspirational stories. Let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? And what inspires you most in life? Click the notification bell to join us on this heartfelt journey. Keep watching to see how Lucas's life takes a miraculous turn that will leave you both inspired and amazed. Lucas sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, the muffled hum of the city barely reaching his ears. His once vibrant world, filled with music and the thrill of performing for adoring crowds, had been reduced to a void. The grand piano in the corner stood untouched, its glossy surface gathering dust, a silent reminder of the life he had lost. 2 years ago, a devastating car accident stole his vision, leaving him not only blind but broken in ways he couldn't explain. That night replayed endlessly in his mind, as if mocking him. The gentle notes of classical music on the radio, the rush of adrenaline from a sold-out concert, and then the screeching tires, the crash, and the endless blackness that followed. The doctors had said his visual cortex was damaged beyond repair. The chances of regaining sight, slim to none. Those words haunted him, pressing down like a suffocating weight. Lucas stopped answering calls, stopped meeting friends, stopped being the man he once was. The world had moved on without him, and he saw no reason to keep up. Then one day, a knock at the door disrupted the monotony. "Mr. Lucas Wright?" A calm, melodic voice called out. Lucas hesitated before shuffling to the door. When he opened it, a woman stood there, a slender figure with an air of quiet determination. She introduced herself as Clara, his new physical therapist. Her voice was steady, professional, but there was an undercurrent of warmth that Lucas found both comforting and irritating. He didn't want to be comforted. He wanted to be left alone. "I'm here to help you adapt to your new normal," Clara explained, stepping into the room with measured confidence. Lucas grimaced. He hated that phrase, new normal. It was just another way of saying, "You'll never have your old life back." Clara was undeterred. She started with the basics, guiding Lucas through mobility exercises, teaching him to navigate his apartment without sight, and helping him rediscover some sense of independence. At first, Lucas resisted, his frustration bubbling over into snide remarks and cold silences. But Clara never reacted with anything but patience. "Take it slow, Lucas," she would say, her voice a gentle anchor in the chaos of his emotions. Weeks turned into months, and Lucas began to notice things about Clara. She wasn't like the other therapists he had worked with before, the ones who treated him with pity or indifference. Clara believed in him, perhaps even more than he believed in himself. She encouraged him, challenged him, and most importantly, refused to let him wallow in self-pity. One afternoon, while guiding Lucas through an exercise, Clara paused and asked, "Do you still think about music?" The question caught Lucas off guard. He hadn't touched his piano since the accident. The idea of playing without sight seemed impossible, a cruel reminder of what he had lost. "What's the point?" he muttered, his tone laced with bitterness. "I can't see the keys. How could I ever play again?" Clara was silent for a moment, and Lucas could sense her thinking. "Maybe not seeing is what will make your music even more powerful," she said finally. "You could feel it in ways no one else can. Your vision didn't make you a great pianist, Lucas. Your soul did." The words hung in the air like a lingering melody, resonating in a part of Lucas he thought had gone silent. For the first time in months, he felt a flicker of hope. Clara didn't push him to play right away. Instead, she helped him reconnect with the world through his other senses. They took walks in the park where she described the vibrant colors of the trees and the patterns of the clouds. She brought him small gifts, a candle with a soothing lavender scent, a textured book with embossed patterns, and asked him to describe how they made him feel. Slowly, Lucas began to see the world differently, not through his eyes but through touch, sound, and imagination. One evening, Clara arrived with a surprise, a portable keyboard. "I thought we could start small," she said, her tone light but hopeful. Lucas hesitated, his hands hovering over the keys as if they might burn him. "It's been so long," he whispered. "I don't even know if I can still do this." Clara knelt beside him, placing her hand gently over his. "Music is part of who you are, Lucas. Just try. For me." Her words, simple yet profound, broke through his fear. Lucas took a deep breath and pressed a single key. The sound was hesitant, awkward, but it was a start. As his fingers moved across the keyboard, muscle memory took over, and a faint melody emerged. It wasn't perfect, but it was his. Clara closed her eyes, swaying to the music, her smile a reflection of pride and encouragement. By the time Lucas finished, his hands were trembling, and tears pricked at his eyes. Clara clapped softly, her enthusiasm genuine. "That was beautiful, Lucas. I knew you could do it." For the first time in years, Lucas felt alive. Clara had given him something he thought was lost forever, a reason to hope. But hope was a fragile thing, and Lucas knew it. Late one night, as they sat together after a session, he confessed, "Sometimes, I think it would have been easier if I hadn't survived that accident. I feel like a burden." Clara didn't flinch at his honesty. Instead, she took his hand and said firmly, "Don't ever say that, Lucas. You have so much to offer. I'll keep reminding you of that until you believe it yourself." Her words, so full of conviction, became the lifeline Lucas needed. Slowly but surely, the darkness that had consumed him began to lift. Clara had shown him that even in the absence of light, there was beauty to be found, and Lucas was determined to see it through her eyes. The days with Clara became a rhythm that Lucas both dreaded and cherished. She challenged him relentlessly, coaxing him out of his comfort zone, yet her presence made his dark days bearable. But beneath their steady progress lay an unspoken tension, a feeling Lucas couldn't shake. He had come to rely on Clara more than he wanted to admit. One chilly afternoon, Clara arrived with a nervous energy. "Lucas, we need to talk," she said, her voice uncharacteristically uncertain. Lucas frowned, his heart tightening. "What's wrong?" Clara hesitated, then exhaled. "I've been offered a position at a sensory rehabilitation clinic in another city. It's an amazing opportunity, but..." Her voice trailed off. Lucas felt as though the floor had shifted beneath him. "But you're leaving," he finished for her, his tone flat. "I haven't made a decision yet," Clara said quickly. "I wanted to be honest with you before I decided anything." Lucas nodded, though the lump in his throat made it hard to speak. "It sounds like a great opportunity. You should take it." Her brow furrowed. Is that what you really think? Lucas forced a smile he didn't feel. You deserve it, Clara. Don't let me hold you back. The conversation ended, but the words hung between them like an unspoken goodbye. That night, Lucas sat at his piano, his fingers trembling over the keys. The idea of losing Clara felt unbearable. She wasn't just his therapist. She was his friend, his guide, his light in the dark. The next morning, Clara arrived later than usual, her usual cheerful demeanor replaced with quiet distraction. They worked through their session, but Lucas could feel the weight of her decision looming. As the day ended, he finally mustered the courage to speak. Clara, he said, his voice steady but soft. Can I take you to dinner tonight? Something special. Clara looked at him, her surprise giving way to a gentle smile. Of course, I'd like that. Lucas spent the rest of the afternoon preparing, with some help from his neighbor, Ethan. The table was set with a crisp white cloth, 2 perfectly aligned plates, and a single candle flickering in the center. Lucas couldn't see the details, but he had orchestrated everything meticulously, imagining it all in his mind. When Clara arrived, her soft footsteps echoed in the quiet room. Lucas, this is beautiful, she said, her voice touched with emotion. I wanted tonight to be special, Lucas replied, pulling out a chair for her. I have something I need to tell you. They ate in companionable silence, chatting about light-hearted topics. But as the meal ended, Clara leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. So, what's all this about? She asked playfully. Lucas took a deep breath. Since the day you walked into my life, everything has changed. At first, I thought you were just doing your job, but it didn't take long to realize you were doing so much more. You've shown me a world I thought I'd lost forever. And he hesitated, feeling his heart pound. I love you, Clara. The words hung in the air, fragile yet powerful. Clara's eyes widened, and for a moment, Lucas feared he had made a terrible mistake. Then Clara reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. Lucas, she whispered, her voice trembling. I love you too. Relief and joy flooded Lucas as he felt Clara's hand tighten around his. You do? He asked, disbelief tinging his tone. She laughed softly, her voice full of warmth. Of course I do. I don't know when it happened, but being with you has become the best part of my day. They talked late into the night, sharing their fears, hopes, and dreams. For the first time in years, Lucas felt truly alive, as though a part of him long buried had been awakened. A few weeks later, Clara sat across from Lucas in the park, her face serious but hopeful. Lucas, I've been thinking about something. What's that? He asked, tilting his head. The doctors mentioned a new experimental surgery. It might help restore some of your vision. Lucas froze. The idea of surgery was both thrilling and terrifying. What if it doesn't work? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Clara leaned forward, her gaze steady. Then we'll deal with that together. But what if it does work? Imagine being able to see the world again. Lucas felt the weight of her words. The thought of seeing again was intoxicating, but the fear of disappointment loomed large. Yet Clara's unwavering belief in him gave him the courage to consider it. Do you think I can do this? He asked quietly. I know you can, Clara said, her voice filled with conviction. And no matter what happens, I'll be here. Lucas nodded, a flicker of determination igniting within him. All right, he said, I'll try. The days leading up to the surgery were a blur of preparation and anxiety. Clara was by Lucas's side every step of the way, her presence a constant source of comfort. On the morning of the procedure, Lucas sat in the hospital waiting room, his hands clenched tightly in his lap. Are you ready? Clara asked, her voice soft. Lucas turned toward her, his face calm despite the storm raging inside. As ready as I'll ever be. In the operating room, the hum of machines filled the sterile air. Clara held Lucas's hand tightly until the anesthesia took effect, her reassuring words the last thing he heard before drifting into unconsciousness. When Lucas woke, the world was still dark. He blinked several times, but nothing changed. Panic threatened to consume him, but Clara's voice cut through the haze. "It's okay," she said gently. "The doctor said it might take time." Lucas nodded, though disappointment weighed heavily on him. The doctors explained that his brain needed to adapt to the changes, and progress might be gradual. Clara remained hopeful, her optimism a lifeline Lucas desperately clung to. Days turned into weeks, and Lucas waited anxiously for any sign of improvement. One evening, as he and Clara walked in the park, he stopped abruptly, his brow furrowing. "What's wrong?" Clara asked, concern evident in her voice. I think I saw something," Lucas said hesitantly. Clara held her breath. "What did you see?" "It's hard to explain," he said slowly. "Just a faint change in light, like a shadow moving." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "That's incredible, Lucas. It's a start." Though the progress was slow, each small improvement brought renewed hope. Lucas began to see faint shapes and outlines, his world slowly coming back into focus. And with every step, Clara was there, her love and encouragement lighting the way. The day of their wedding arrived on a crisp morning, the air filled with the delicate scent of blooming flowers. Lucas stood at the altar, his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted his tie for the third time. Ethan, his best man, patted his shoulder reassuringly. "Nervous?" Ethan asked with a grin. "Terrified?" Lucas admitted, his voice tinged with a mix of excitement and anxiety. "You'll be fine," Ethan said. "The moment Clara walks down that aisle, you'll forget everything else." Lucas smiled faintly, but his heart raced. His vision had improved over the weeks, but it was still limited to hazy outlines and faint flashes of light. He hadn't yet seen Clara fully, and the thought of witnessing her in her wedding dress filled him with both anticipation and fear. What if his expectations didn't match reality? What if the music changed, the familiar notes of the wedding march filling the garden? The soft rustle of fabric and the murmurs of guests fell away as all eyes turned to the entrance. Lucas held his breath. At first, it was just a flash, a faint shimmer of white moving toward him. He blinked rapidly, his pulse quickening as the light grew stronger, taking shape. Gradually, he began to discern the outline of a figure, the flowing curve of a dress, the graceful sway of each step. And then, as Clara moved closer, her face came into focus. Lucas gasped, tears spilling over as he took in the sight before him. Her hair was pinned elegantly, adorned with delicate white flowers. Her smile radiated a warmth that seemed to chase away every shadow of doubt he had ever known. She was quite simply breathtaking. Clara noticed his tears and paused, concern flickering across her face. "Lucas," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the music. "Are you okay?" Lucas nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Then, with a voice thick with emotion, he whispered back, "Clara, I can see you." Her hand flew to her mouth, her own tears spilling over as she stepped closer. "You can see me?" Lucas nodded again, his gaze fixed on her. "You're even more beautiful than I ever imagined." The officiant smiled, allowing the couple a moment to compose themselves before continuing. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we are not only witnessing the union of two souls, but also the beginning of a miracle." Clara took Lucas's hands, her touch steadying him as they exchanged vows. Every word felt profound, carrying the weight of their journey together. When the officiant declared them husband and wife, Lucas leaned forward, cupping Clara's face gently as he kissed her. The crowd erupted in applause, but for Lucas, the world had narrowed to just the two of them. Later that evening, as the guests mingled in the softly lit garden, Lucas and Clara stole a quiet moment together under the stars. The reception had been a joyous affair, filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts. Yet now, as they sat on a bench overlooking the garden, the world seemed to pause just for them. "I still can't believe it," Lucas said, his voice low as he gazed at Clara. "After everything, I never thought I'd get to see this moment." Clara leaned her head on his shoulder, her fingers intertwined with his. "It's not just about what you can see, Lucas. It's about what we've built together." This is our miracle." Lucas turned to her, his expression soft. "You're right, and I never want to take it for granted." In the months that followed, life settled into a rhythm once more, but this time, it was filled with purpose. Lucas and Clara threw themselves into their nonprofit organization, determined to bring hope and independence to others facing similar challenges. The center they envisioned began to take shape, complete with a music room, a sensory garden, and spaces for workshops and support groups. One afternoon, Clara walked into their shared office, her arms laden with documents. "Lucas, guess what?" He looked up from the keyboard where he had been composing a new piece. "What's that?" "We just received a letter from a young woman who attended one of our workshops. She said it gave her the confidence to pursue her dream of becoming a teacher." "Can you believe that?" Lucas smiled, pride swelling in his chest. "That's exactly why we started this." Clara set the papers down and crossed the room to him, wrapping her arms around his shoulders. "None of this would have been possible without you." Lucas shook his head, his fingers brushing against hers.
"No, Clara.
"It's because of us. You were the one who showed me that light exists even in the darkest places." A year later, they stood in a bright, bustling community center, an expansion of their original organization. The grand opening was a festive affair, with families, volunteers, and supporters gathering to celebrate. Clara gave a heartfelt speech about the power of resilience and love, while Lucas shared his personal journey, inspiring everyone in the room. As the evening wound down, Clara took Lucas's hand. "Do you realize how far we've come?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. Lucas nodded, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. "I do, and it's only the beginning." Clara smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. "With you by my side, I believe we can do anything." Lucas kissed the top of her head, his heart full. "I believe that too." And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the center they had built, Lucas and Clara stood together, ready to face whatever came next, because they had learned that even in the darkest of times, love and hope could light the way. Lucas and Clara's story is more than just a tale of resilience and love. It's a testament to the boundless power of hope, courage, and the human spirit. Together, they overcame the darkness of loss, rediscovered their purpose, and built a life centered around giving back to others. Their journey reminds us that, no matter how overwhelming our struggles may seem, there is always a way forward when we embrace love, determination, and faith in ourselves and those who support us. Through their nonprofit organization, Lucas and Clara didn't just help others regain independence. They inspired a community to believe in second chances and the miracles that can unfold when people come together. Their story encourages us to find the light within, even when life feels shrouded in darkness, and to share that light with others in need. As Lucas once said, "Vision isn't just about what we see with our eyes. It's about what we feel in our hearts." This profound truth echoes through every note he plays, every life Clara touches, and every life changed by their work. Together, they proved that love is the greatest light of all, capable of illuminating even the darkest paths. What about you? What challenges have you faced? And how have you found the courage to rise above them? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If Lucas and Clara's journey inspired you, don't forget to like this story and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more uplifting and heartfelt tales like this one. Click the notification bell to stay updated on every new story, and let us know where you're watching from. Before you go, type hope in the comments if you believe in the power of second chances and the light of love. Let's spread positivity and inspire each other to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Stay tuned for more incredible, life-changing stories. You won't want to miss them.